Okay, this is going to be our review of DGP number 16. Starting with the first step, you want to identify the capitalization and punctuation. We're going to add commas to isolate the appositive my best friend. We're going to add our period at the end, and then also a couple of apostrophes. An apostrophe in doesn't because it's a contraction, and an apostrophe in it's because it's also a contraction for it is. Remember the rule for possessive with the pronoun it is opposite of all the other possessive rules. It doesn't mean it's is possessive if there is a apostrophe there. It means that it is the contraction for it is. So remember that. Also, Ender is the name of our main character in our book, so he is going to have a capital N. My was a possessive pronoun. Best is the adjective. Friend is the noun. Doesn't, you have two words there, so you have two parts of speech. Does is a helping verb, and not is an adverb. Okay? Make sure you do that. Like is an action verb. Battling is the gerund. You should have reviewed the instructional video on the handout, the DGP handout that told you all about gerunds, and so that should have been a super easy word to find. But is a conjunction. I is a pronoun. Think is going to be an action verb. That is a relative pronoun. It's is going to be handled the same way that we did doesn't. It's actually two words. So it is a pronoun, and is a helping verb. And then fun is your adjective. For step 2, we're going to look at subject and predicate. So we've got several in here. We've got Ender. We have I. We also have my best friend, which gives more information about Ender. It's not an adjective phrase. It's actually an appositive phrase. Good morning. And it gives more information about Ender. Appositives usually come right after the subject. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this clause. Doesn't like battling. I'm going to leave but alone because it's a conjunction. It's not a part of the clauses. The subject in the second clause is I, and then think is the next one. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue with this. It's a little bit complicated today, so that's why I wanted to go over it with you. The next part is identifying the direct objects. Ender doesn't like what? Battling. But I think what? That it's fun. Okay, so that it's fun is a direct object. But then you also have another direct object inside this phrase, okay? It is what? It is fun. So you're going to go ahead and label this one too as a direct object, okay? And that is also a clause. But we'll deal with that the next day. Okay, so we want to go ahead and label fun as also as a predicate adjective because it's an adjective in the predicate. We also want to label our verbs now that we have our direct objects identified. And we're going to label our action verb like as a transitive verb because it has a direct object. We're also going to label think as a transitive verb because it has the direct object after it as well. Now, up in your appositive phrase, the actual appositive in the phrase is the noun in the phrase that gives more information about the noun that it is that's there for. Okay. Step 3, we're going to identify our clauses now. Ender, my best friend, doesn't like battling, but I think that it's fun. There's a clause, but notice in the second clause, it has a clause inside it. So there's 3. Okay. Now, actually, this one needs to go here. That it's fun. Okay. So the first clause is independent. It can stand on its own. The second clause, I think that it's fun, is also independent. The third clause, that it's fun, is not independent. It is not a sentence. It's just a piece of a sentence. So it's a dependent clause. So when you have 2 independent clauses and 1 dependent clause, you're going to have a complex sentence. Complex. Move my mouse so you can see. Complex. You also have a declarative sentence here. Okay. Next step is to go ahead and do your diagram. And I will begin with the first clause. Ender is the subject. Friend is the appositive. Does like. You have to break your verb or your contraction out and bust it up and make it complete. Does not like instead of doesn't. Okay? You have to have a place for every word, and there's no place for contractions in a diagram. The next part is where you're going to put battling, and it's going to go up here, and it's going to curve. My best are the 2 adjectives, of course, that modify friend. And then you're going to have your coordinating conjunction but in the center. And then we're ready to go on to the last clause, which is I think. And we're going to put that right here. It is fun. Okay. This was a very complicated one, so that's why I wanted to go over it with you today. If you want to do your sentence imitation, make it sound like somebody that you know doesn't like something, but you think what? Okay. So my sentence might be, Mary, my best buddy, doesn't like swimming, but I think that it's awesome. Okay? Any questions about DGP, feel free to email or message me in the chat.